First contact in crisis. The mining vessel Prospector's Dream drifted silently through the asteroid belt of the Carina 449 system, its worn hull reflecting the distant starlight. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge viewport, her weathered face illuminated by the holographic displays showing mineral composition readings from the surrounding rocks. After 6 months of deep space prospecting, they had yet to find a deposit worth the fuel costs. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," called out Sensor Officer Marcus Wright, his dark fingers dancing across the control panel. "Got a signal bleeding through several frequencies. It's not like anything in our database." Sarah turned from the viewport, interest piqued. "Natural phenomenon?" "No, ma'am. It's definitely artificial, but the pattern is completely alien." "Wait." Marcus's eyes widened. "It's resolving into something clearer. I think it's a distress signal." The bridge crew fell silent. In their 5 years working the outer rim, they'd never encountered another species. First contact was the realm of diplomats and military vessels, not independent mining ships. "Show me," Sarah ordered, moving to Marcus's station. The signal pattern displayed on his screen was indeed unlike anything she'd seen before, a complex series of pulses that somehow conveyed desperate urgency. "It's coming from bearing 047 Mark 122, Marcus reported. "About 6 light minutes out." Sarah didn't hesitate. "Helm, set course to investigate. All hands to stations." As they approached the source, the ship's sensors revealed a horrifying scene. A vessel of clearly alien design lay tumbling through space, its elegant silver hull torn open in multiple places, debris scattered around it like a cloud of metallic confetti, glinting in the starlight. "Life signs," Sarah demanded. "Faint readings, Captain," Marcus responded. "Their life support appears to be failing. I'm detecting at least 30 individuals aboard, but their vital signs are weak and getting weaker." "Any other ships in range?" "Yes, ma'am. I'm picking up 3 vessels at the edge of sensor range. They're just sitting there, watching." Sarah's jaw clenched. "Open a channel to the alien ship." The bridge speakers crackled with a response, a series of musical tones underlaid with clicking sounds. The ship's AI worked to translate, and moments later, words emerged. "Please, help us. Our children are dying. The Varaks attacked without warning. They destroyed our colony. We are all that remain of our people. The other ships, they see us but do nothing. Our atmosphere vents into space. Our power fails. Please." The message repeated, growing weaker with each iteration. Sarah turned to her chief engineer. "David, what are we looking at?" The gruff engineer studied the sensor readings. "Their main reactor's gone critical. Hull breach on multiple decks. They've maybe 2 hours of breathable atmosphere left, tops. We could try to help, but..." He met Sarah's eyes. "Captain, we're a mining vessel. We're not equipped for this kind of rescue operation." "And those other ships?" Sarah asked Marcus. "Why aren't they helping?" Marcus shook his head. "They're receiving the distress call, too. They're just watching. Wait, getting a transmission from one of them." A new voice filled the bridge, speaking through the translator. "Human vessel, be advised this situation falls outside standard salvage protocols. The species aboard that ship has no registered status in the Galactic Assembly. Rendering aid could be viewed as interference in internal affairs. We recommend maintaining distance." Sarah's fingers dug into the back of Marcus's chair as she processed this. 30 lives hanging in the balance, and these advanced aliens were quibbling about bureaucratic protocols. "How long until the nearest official rescue vessel could reach them?" she asked. Marcus checked his readings. "Nearest assembly emergency response ship is 3 days out, Captain." Sarah straightened. Decision made. "They'll be dead long before then. Helm, take us in close. David, prep emergency repair teams. Marcus, tell medical to convert Cargo Bay 2 into a triage center." She paused, then added, and send a message to those other ships. Tell them that while they debate protocols, we're going to do what humans have always done: help people in need. The prospector's dream moved purposefully toward the dying vessel. As they drew closer, the damage became even more apparent. The alien ship's hull was a masterpiece of engineering, but now it was riddled with weapon impacts. Through the breaches, they could see interior chambers exposed to vacuum, their contents flash-frozen. "Getting better readings now," Marcus reported. "The survivors are clustered in what appears to be their central chamber. They've sealed it off, but the atmospheric containment is failing. Can we dock with them?" David shook his head. "Their docking mechanisms are completely different from ours. We'd never get a seal." "Then we do this the hard way," Sarah said. "Suit up a rescue team. We'll cut our way in if we have to." As the crew rushed to prepare for the rescue operation, Sarah received another transmission from the watching aliens. "Human vessel, you are now officially notified that any casualties resulting from your unauthorized intervention will be your sole responsibility." Sarah's response was curt. "Noted. And you are officially notified that your inaction in the face of preventable death is now recorded in our logs. Humanity will remember who stood by and watched children die today." The rescue would be dangerous. They had no idea if the alien atmosphere would be compatible with their systems. The failing reactor could explode at any moment. The mysterious Varax attackers might return. But as Sarah watched her crew don their EVA suits and prep cutting equipment, she felt a surge of pride. This was humanity at its best, rushing toward danger to help strangers. Protocols be damned. The prospector's dream extended its emergency docking umbilical, a flexible tube that could hopefully provide a path between the ships. As they worked to save the dying aliens, Sarah found herself wondering what consequences this day would bring. But she knew, whatever came next, she would never regret trying to help. After all, that's what humans do. Breaking the blockade. The rescue operation was underway, but Sarah Chen knew they weren't out of danger yet. Through the prospector's dream's viewport, she watched her EVA teams working to stabilize the alien vessel's hull, their helmet lights creating a dance of illumination against the dark metal. "Captain," Marcus called from his station, voice tense. "Those 3 ships that were watching, they're gone. But I'm picking up new contacts at the edge of our sensor range. Big ones." Sarah's stomach tightened. Configuration: warships. Varax design, based on the weapon signatures that damaged the refugee vessel. 5 of them, moving to surround us in a standard blockade pattern. The first of the refugees were already being brought aboard through the emergency umbilical. Sarah had gotten her first look at them through the video feed. Tall, graceful beings with iridescent skin and 4 arms, their movements displaying an almost liquid grace, even in their weakened state. The ship's medical officer reported their biology was silicon-based, requiring very specific atmospheric conditions to survive. "How many have we gotten aboard?" Sarah demanded. 17 so far, David reported from engineering. "But Captain, we've got a problem. Their atmospheric requirements, we can't synthesize it fast enough. At current rates, we'll run out of viable air for them in less than 10 hours. A new voice crackled over the comms. The Varax commander, speaking through their translator. "Human vessel, you are harboring fugitive specimens of a condemned species. Their genetic patterns have been deemed unfit for continuation. Stand down and prepare to surrender them, or face immediate termination." Sarah's fists clenched. Genetic purification. She'd read about such atrocities in humanity's own history. "Like hell," she muttered, then keyed the ship-wide comm. "All hands, battle stations. David, how long to get the rest of the refugees aboard?" 20 minutes minimum. "But Captain, without their specific atmospheric mix." "There's a supply depot in the Helios sector," Sarah interrupted. "They stock exotic atmospheres for the assembly trading fleets." Marcus spoke up. "That's on the other side of the Varax blockade. We'd never break through. The prospectors barely armed." Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. No, but we are a mining ship. She turned to David. Those new plasma drills we installed last month, how much power can you divert to them? Understanding dawned in the engineer's eyes. They're not designed as weapons, but at full power, they could do some serious damage. We'd have to get close, though. Real close. That's the plan. Sarah moved to the center of the bridge. Marcus, plot me a course through the densest part of the asteroid field. Helm, prepare for manual control. David, I want those drills hot and ready. We're going to remind these Verax why humans were known as crazy enough to mine asteroids by hand in the early days of spaceflight. The next 20 minutes were a blur of activity. The last refugees were brought aboard, many unconscious from atmospheric degradation. The prospectors' medbay was overwhelmed, forcing them to convert cargo spaces into makeshift wards. Through it all, the Verax ships drew steadily closer, their weapons charged and tracking. All refugees secured, medical reported. But we need that atmospheric supply soon, Captain. Their bodies are already starting to show signs of stress. Verax ships in attack formation, Marcus added. They're charging weapons. Sarah took a deep breath. Helm, take us into the asteroid field. Full speed. She switched to ship-wide comms. All hands, secure for extreme maneuvering. This is going to get rough. The prospector's dream surged forward, diving into the chaotic mass of tumbling rocks. The Verax ships followed, but more cautiously. Their larger warships weren't designed for such close-quarters maneuvering. Ready the plasma drills, Sarah ordered. Target the largest asteroids in our path. What followed was a display of piloting that would have seemed impossible to anyone who hadn't spent years threading through asteroid fields looking for valuable minerals. The prospector's helm officer wove through gaps barely wider than their hull, while their plasma drills, designed to crack open asteroids for mining, instead turned the floating rocks into weapons. Each blast from the drills shattered asteroids into clouds of high-velocity debris, forcing the Verax ships to either shield against the impacts or veer off course. The debris clouds also played havoc with their targeting sensors, making their superior weapons nearly useless in the chaos. They're falling behind, Marcus reported, excitement creeping into his voice. The asteroid field is too dense for them to maintain formation. But Sarah knew they weren't safe yet. The prospector's power reserves were dropping fast, and their refugee passengers were running out of time. They needed to reach that supply depot. A warning klaxon blared. Verax missile lock. Marcus shouted. Full power to the drill array. Sarah commanded. Target that cluster of nickel-iron asteroids dead ahead. Maximum yield. The plasma drills fired, their energy beams transforming the dense cluster of asteroids into an expanding sphere of superheated metal fragments. The Verax missiles detonated prematurely as they hit the debris, creating a chain reaction that forced their pursuers to break off or risk catastrophic damage. We're clear of the asteroid field, Helm reported. Course to Helios Depot laid in. Sarah allowed herself to breathe again. Get us there. Fast. She turned to medical. How are our passengers holding up? Critical but stable. The children are showing the most resilience. But Captain, some of the adults are insisting on speaking with you. They say they've never seen anyone fight like that before. Never seen anyone risk themselves for strangers. Sarah smiled sadly. Tell them to save their strength. And tell them this is just what humans do. We'll get them their air, and then we'll find them somewhere safe. Somewhere they can live without fear of being condemned for their genetics. As the prospector's dream raced toward the supply depot, Sarah thought about the message they'd just sent to the galaxy. Humanity might be new to the interstellar community. Their technology might be crude compared to some, but today they'd proven something important. There are times when determination and the will to help others trump advanced weapons and cold logic. The Verax would be back, she knew. And next time, they'd be ready for mining ship tricks. But that was a problem for later. Right now, they had lives to save. Trust and sacrifice. The Helios supply depot hung before them like a metallic spider web, its spindly docking arms extending in all directions. The prospector's dream had arrived with barely an hour of breathable atmosphere left for their refugees, but Sarah Chen's relief was short-lived. Multiple ships detecting at extreme range, Marcus reported, his voice tight. Varak signatures. They're converging on our position. Sarah watched as their rescued passengers helped her crew convert more cargo space into lettable quarters. The aliens, who called themselves the Lissani, had proven remarkably adaptable. Despite their weakened state, they pitched in wherever they could, their 4 arms making them exceptional at delicate repair work. "How long until the Varaks arrive?" she asked. 3 hours at their current speed. "They're moving in a search pattern. They haven't spotted us yet." The depot's communications officer appeared on their main screen, his expression concerned. "Captain Chen, we've received warnings from assembly authorities. Harboring genetically condemned species carries severe penalties. We cannot officially provide aid." Sarah felt her jaw clench. More bureaucratic excuses. But before she could respond, one of the Lissani stepped forward. Elorian, their lead engineer, had learned enough English to communicate basically without the translator. "Your people risk much for us," he said, his iridescent skin shifting through shades of blue. "Already you face punishment from mighty powers. We cannot ask more." "You're not asking," Sarah replied firmly. "We're offering." She turned back to the depot officer. "Those warnings mention anything about selling supplies to an independent mining vessel?" The officer frowned. "No specific prohibitions against normal commerce." "Good, because I'm about to place a very large order. For mining operations, very specific atmospheric requirements for some exotic mineral processing." She transmitted the specs for the Lissani atmospheric needs. Pure business transaction. Nothing to do with any refugees. The depot officer's frown deepened, but Sarah saw the slight twitch of his lips. "Your payment authorization seems in order. Loading will take approximately 40 minutes. As the depot's automated systems began transferring the atmospheric supplies, Sarah gathered her senior staff and the Lissani leaders in the conference room. The rescued aliens had recovered enough to share their full story. "Our crime was evolution," explained Murata, the Lissani's chief scientist. Her translator rendered her musical language into crisp English. "Our species adapted too quickly to new environments. The Varaks believe this threatens genetic purity. They fear our potential to surpass them." She gestured to her iridescent skin. "This adaptation alone terrifies them. Our ability to photosynthesize energy directly from stars. Which is why they attacked without warning." Sarah finished. "To eliminate a potential rival before you grew too strong." "Yes, but they underestimated our preparations. A few ships escaped, carrying our children and genetic banks. We scattered, hoping some would survive." Murata's skin darkened to deep purple. "We are the last. The others, we received their final transmissions as they were hunted down." The room fell silent. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. They'd saved these refugees, but now what? The Varaks wouldn't stop hunting them, and the assembly clearly wouldn't intervene. David cleared his throat. "Captain, I've been working with Elorian. The Lissani understand mineral composition in ways we never imagined. Their techniques could revolutionize our mining operations, and your engineering principles are remarkably elegant." Elorian added. "Together, we cooled." Multiple Varak ships dropping out of FTL. Marcus's voice cut through the ship's comm. "They found us." Sarah was on her feet instantly. "Time to loading completion. 15 minutes minimum." "We don't have 15 minutes." Sarah turned to the Lissani. "Your people are still too weak for rapid evacuation. We'll have to defend this position." She keyed the ship-wide comm. "All hands. Battle stations. David, get those plasma drills online. We're not running this time." But Murata stepped forward, her skin shifting to a determined gold. "There is another way. Our photosynthetic abilities. We can survive briefly in hard vacuum. Let us help defend your ship. We understand energy patterns in ways your sensors cannot." "That's too dangerous," Sarah protested. "You're civilians, not warriors." "No," Elorian said firmly. "We are survivors. And you have shown us that sometimes survival requires fighting back." What followed was a hastily organized but ingenious defense. While the prospector's dream maintained position by the depot, Lissani volunteers spacewalked to nearby structures. Their ability to absorb and redirect energy let them act as living sensor arrays, giving the human ship unprecedented tactical awareness. The first Verax strike came as a surprise attack from behind the depot's bulk, but the Lissani spotted the energy signatures of their cloaked ships, allowing Sarah's crew to target the perfect asteroids with their plasma drills. The resulting debris cloud forced the Verax to decloak or risk collision. "They're trying to surround us again," Marcus reported. 8 ships this time. "Good," Sarah replied grimly. "Means they're taking us seriously." "David, how's our surprise coming?" The engineer grinned. "Ready when you are, Captain. Though I still say this is crazy." "Crazy is what humans do best." Sarah opened a channel to the Lissani. "Everyone in position. Remember, timing is everything." The Verax attacked in force, their weapons blazing. But as they pressed their attack, the Lissani put their plan into action. Their bodies began to glow, absorbing energy from both the nearby star and the Verax's own weapon fire. Then, on Sarah's signal, they released it all at once, a coordinated pulse that created a cascading feedback loop through the Verax ship's shield systems. In that moment of confusion, the prospector's dream executed its part. They'd modified their cargo bay doors to release their entire supply of mining charges, simple fusion bombs normally used to crack especially dense asteroids. The charges detonated in a precise pattern, creating a shockwave that caught the Verax ships with their shields still scrambled. "Direct hits," Marcus shouted. 3 Verax ships disabled. 4, 5. The others are breaking off. "Loading complete," the depot reported. "You have your supplies, Captain Chen. I suggest you use them quickly. Somewhere far from here." Sarah was already moving. "Recover our Lissani allies. Plot a course out of the system." She paused, then added, "And send a message to the Verax. Tell them that humanity formally protests their policy of genetic persecution. Tell them that if they continue this hunt, they won't just be dealing with one mining ship next time." As they retrieved the Lissani and fled the system, Sarah watched her unlikely allies helping tend to their wounded. Humans and aliens working together, each bringing their unique strengths to overcome impossible odds. "Where will we go?" Murata asked softly. Sarah smiled. "I know some people back on Earth who'd be very interested in revolutionary mining techniques, and I hear the Sol system is lovely this time of year. Very defensible, too." It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start. Today they'd proven that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or weapons. It was their willingness to stand up for what's right, no matter the odds. The adventure wasn't over, but at least now, the Lissani knew they weren't facing it alone. The human way. The journey to Earth wasn't going to be simple. Sarah Chen knew this even before the prospector's dream's long-range sensors detected the massive fleet gathering to intercept them. The Verax had called in reinforcements. 23 warships, Marcus reported grimly. They're forming a blockade across every possible route to the Sol system. And Captain, they're not just Verax anymore. Looks like they've convinced some assembly forces to join them. Sarah stood at the bridge viewport, watching the distant stars. Behind her, the ship thrummed with activity. Over the past week, the Lissani had integrated seamlessly with her crew, their unique abilities and perspective leading to dozens of improvements in the ship's systems. "They're hailing us," Marcus said. The face that appeared on the main screen wasn't Verax. It was a stern-looking assembly official, his crystalline features arranged in what passed for diplomatic concern. "Captain Chen," he began, "your actions, while perhaps well-intentioned, have caused a serious diplomatic incident. Return the condemned specimens, and the assembly will intercede on your behalf with the Verax. No charges will be filed against your crew. Sarah noticed he didn't say what would happen to the Lysani if she agreed. She didn't have to ask. Instead, she turned to Elorian, who stood at a newly modified engineering station. "How's that project we discussed coming along?" The Lysani engineer's skin rippled with colors that the translator interpreted as excitement. "The principles are sound. We've never attempted anything on this scale, but combining our energy manipulation abilities with your plasma drill technology, it could work. We would need time to prepare, though. Time we don't have," David added from engineering. "Those ships are moving to surround us." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Actually, time is the one thing we do have, because we're about to introduce these fine assembly representatives to another human tradition, diplomacy." She turned back to the screen. "We'll need 12 hours to prepare our surrender. There are children aboard. Arrangements must be made." The official's crystalline features shifted slightly. "You have 6 hours." 10, Sarah countered. "Unless you want to explain to your superiors why you risked harm to innocent children. The assembly does still maintain its principles regarding the treatment of minors, yes." A pause. 10 hours, but no more. The channel closed. Sarah immediately turned to her crew. "Right. That's our window. Everyone knows their roles." Nods all around. "Then let's show the galaxy how humans solve problems." The next 10 hours were a blur of activity, while the assembly fleet watched. Thinking they were preparing for surrender, the humans and Lysani worked together on something unprecedented. The Lysani used their natural abilities to absorb and channel energy from the ship's systems, while the engineering team modified their plasma drills into something entirely new. Every piece of mining equipment they had was repurposed, jury-rigged, or completely rebuilt. "They're expecting us to either surrender or try to run," Sarah explained during a brief rest period. "No one would be crazy enough to fight against those odds. But that's because no one's ever seen humans and Lysani work together before." When the deadline arrived, the assembly official reappeared on screen. "Your time is up, Captain Chen. Prepare to be boarded." Sarah sat calmly in her command chair. "Actually, we have a counter-proposal." She nodded to David. "Show them what humans and Lysani can do together." The prospector's dream's modified systems powered up. The Lysani crew members began to glow, channeling energy in ways that made the sensors go haywire. The ship's plasma drills, restructured into a massive energy array, hummed with power. "What are you doing?" the official demanded. "Something impossible," Sarah replied. "Elorian, now." The Lysani's natural ability to manipulate energy fields combined with human plasma technology in a way neither species had imagined before. A massive pulse erupted from the prospector's dream, expanding outward in a controlled wave. Where it touched the assembly ships, their shields flickered and died. Weapon systems went dark. Even their engines sputtered and failed. The pulse had been precisely calibrated to disable rather than destroy. Another example of Lysani precision merged with human innovation. What have you done?" the official stammered. "Demonstrated what cooperation between species can achieve," Sarah answered. "Your ships will regain power in approximately 1 hour. We'll be long gone by then. But before we leave, I want you to deliver a message to the assembly." She stood, her voice firm. "Humanity rejects any system that condemns entire species for the crime of being different. The Lysani are under our protection now. If the Verax or anyone else continues to hunt them, they'll find out just how creative humans can be when we're protecting our friends." The prospector's dream slipped past the Disable fleet, its engines pushed to new limits by Lysani enhancements. They'd won this battle not through superior firepower or technology, but through the combined ingenuity of two species working together. "The assembly won't forget this," Marcus warned as they set course for Earth. "We've made some powerful enemies today, Maybe, Sarah agreed. But we've also proved something important. Showed everyone that humanity won't stand by while innocents are persecuted, and that when we make friends, we stick by them. She watched as human and Lysani crew members worked side by side, their differences forgotten in the joy of their shared victory. This, she thought, was humanity's real strength, not their technology or their determination, but their ability to reach out to others, to form bonds across any divide. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but they'd face it together, the way humans always had, with open minds, ready hearts, and the unshakable belief that doing the right thing was worth any risk. That was the human way. A new beginning. 6 months after the prospector's dream's unconventional arrival in the Sol system, Sarah Chen stood before the United Earth Council, watching as humanity took its first real steps onto the galactic stage. The chamber was packed with representatives from every nation on Earth, but Sarah's attention was drawn to the delegation of Lysani seated in the observers section. Their iridescent skin shifted through patterns of blue and gold, colors that the humans had learned meant hope and gratitude. "The vote is unanimous," announced the council president. "Earth formally extends protection and citizenship rights to the Lysani people. Furthermore, we are establishing the Sanctuary Initiative, offering safe haven to any species facing persecution in assembly space." Applause filled the chamber. Sarah caught Ilorian's eye and smiled. The Lysani engineer's skin flickered with joy. In the months since their arrival, the partnership between humans and Lysani had proven revolutionary. The Lysani's understanding of energy patterns, combined with human industrial techniques, had already led to breakthroughs in everything from space travel to renewable energy. Their mining techniques had transformed asteroid exploitation from a dangerous gamble into a precise science. But more importantly, their presence had united humanity in a way few things could. When the story of the rescue spread, when people saw what humans and aliens could accomplish together, old Earthbound divisions began to seem petty. "There will be consequences," Marcus murmured from his seat beside Sarah. He'd been promoted to diplomatic liaison, helping smooth relations between humans and Lysani. The Assembly's already making threats about trade sanctions. "Let them," Sarah replied. "We've got something better than their trade routes. We've got friends." She wasn't just being optimistic. News of Earth's defiance had spread through the galaxy. Other species, tired of assembly bureaucracy and Virax aggression, had begun reaching out. The prospector's dream's actions had shown there was another way, one based on cooperation and mutual respect rather than genetic purity or political power. After the ceremony, Sarah found herself in the council's observation dome with Murata, watching Earth's sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. The Lysani scientist's skin rippled in patterns that mimicked the atmospheric light show. "You know," Murata said, "when we first sent out our distress call, we had no hope of rescue. The Assembly's rules, the Virax's power, it all seemed absolute. We never imagined that a bunch of crazy humans in a mining ship would ignore the rules and risk everything to help strangers. That we would find not just rescuers, but true allies, friends." Murata's skin shifted to deep purple, the color of profound emotion. "You must understand, Captain, what you and your crew did. It changed more than just our fate. It showed the galaxy that there are still those who will stand up for what's right, no matter the cost." Sarah thought about the changes already spreading through human society. The surge of volunteers for the new joint human-Lysani space exploration programs. The unprecedented cooperation between nations as Earth prepared to take a more active role in galactic affairs. The determination to prove that humanity's first major action on the galactic stage, choosing to help rather than stand aside, wasn't a fluke but a fundamental part of who they were. "The Assembly called us primitive," Sarah mused, "said we didn't understand galactic politics. Maybe they were right. Maybe we don't understand why we should ignore suffering just because some regulation says we should. Maybe we don't get why genetic differences should matter more than character." She smiled. "And maybe that's not a bad thing." A commotion at the door drew their attention. David burst in, his eyes bright with excitement. "Captain, the modifications the Lysani helped us make to the long-range sensors, they just picked up another distress call. Another species running from persecution. They're calling themselves the Nexeri." Sarah and Murata shared a look. They both knew what would happen next. Earth would respond, of course. Not just the Prospector's dream this time, but a whole fleet of ships. Human determination combined with Lysani technology, crewed by both species working together. Because that's what humans do. They help. They protect. They stand up for what's right. And now they had allies who shared those values. Together, they would show the galaxy that there was strength in unity, power in compassion, and hope in standing together against injustice. It wasn't just a new beginning for the Lysani. It was a new beginning for humanity, for Earth, and maybe, just maybe, for the entire galaxy. As Sarah looked out at the setting sun, she smiled. The stars were waiting, and humanity was ready to show the universe exactly what they could do. The end.